Hope everyone had a great lunch, and we're just a few minutes behind schedule, so I want to jump right into the material. You know, they handed me a list of like 10 jokes or something to try to be funny, but you guys know me by now. I'd rather just get into the content, so we're going to skip all those. See? Hey, one of them worked. That's good. See? So, essentially, the rest of today, we've got a great interview taking place by a gentleman, which I'm sure he'll tell us a little bit of the story. Made his flight just now this morning by like 1 minute, so I can't wait to hear how that went. We've got an awesome panel coming up, and I have to get through the rest of session 2, which is, of course, what we're starting. Well, I have to get through the rest of session 2. We didn't finish session 1, so we're going to fast forward a little bit to try to get caught up. And what we're going to do is, I left off on the sources of business, the 25 sources of business. We are going to send out the entire list to you to save us time so I can shift gears to lead follow-up and lead conversion. So there's another, 7 or 8 that I didn't get a chance to get to. In order to stay on schedule and be respectful of everyone's time, we're going to email that out. We've got all your email addresses, obviously. We've been spamming you enough over the past few weeks. Hey, you weren't supposed to laugh at that. So we'll make sure to get you that. So I want to shift gears a little bit, and we're still technically on session 1, if you will, and we're shifting gears to lead follow-up and lead conversion. And then we'll get into session 2, which is probably going to be my personal favorite, which is a heavy discussion around pre-qualifying and, more importantly, dissecting the personality style of the prospect. You know, I think a lot of agents struggle with that piece. How do we identify who we're communicating with, and what do we adjust to adapt to them? We'll be talking about that in just a bit. So if you would return to your notes or turn to a clean sheet of paper. And at the top I have written down lead follow-up and lead conversion. So this is kind of like part 1B. 1A was the lead generation and the prospecting. Now we're talking lead follow-up and lead conversion. So I wrote down lead follow-up and lead conversion are actually 2 different things. Okay, here's our definition of lead follow-up at Glover U. Lead follow-up is the frequency and the methods in which we are reaching out to a prospective client. Lead follow-up is the frequency and methods we use to reach out to a prospective client. That is the definition of lead follow-up. And we separate the 2 because I know so many people think you either hear lead follow-up, lead conversion, and you think they're kind of the same. They're not. Lead conversion is, by the way, the definition in our mind. It's what we say to the leads in order to convert them. Okay, so lead follow-up is the frequency and the methods. Lead conversion is what we say to convert them, the actual script, which can be over the phone, it could be in person, it can be through text messaging, it can be through social media, whatever it is. So the follow-up is the frequency and the methods. Lead conversion is what we say to convert. Why is this important? Well, it's important because you may have heard before, and I can tell you, we have proven this statistic, 70% of your appointments will come from the actual lead follow-up and lead conversion, not on the initial call with someone. Right? So if you have an initial call with a potential seller, you have an initial call with a potential buyer, 65 to 70% of the time, that won't turn into an appointment on that first dialogue. So therefore, we have to have a strong lead follow-up system, method, and script, which we're going to talk about here. So let's take a look at what the definition of a lead is today. Definition of a lead today. I hear from agents all the time. Okay, they pay for some lead sources, they've got an awesome CRM, and then all of a sudden they've got 2,000 leads. Hey, you got all come check out the back end of this CRM. Look at all these graphs and these charts. You know, it's showing me how many leads I have in here. I got thousands of leads. Let's be real clear about something. If you have not engaged in any sort of conversation with them, whether it be over the phone, through text or social media, however you do it, that is not a lead. Okay, I want you to hear me real loud and clear on this. You've got these names and numbers or names and email addresses that you've purchased, and you've put them into your CRM, and they're sitting in there, and you're building this pool of what most agents would call leads. Those aren't leads. Leads are someone that you've had a conversation with about real estate that's interested in transacting business at a given point in time. That's the definition of a lead. someone you've had a conversation with, whether it be digitally or physically, that will be transacting business at some point in time. So what are these 2,000 names and numbers and email addresses that I have? What are those called? Those are called prospects. So you've got your CRM, 1,000, 2,000, 100, 200, however many you have in there. Those are not leads. Don't ever mistake those for leads. Why is that? Well, because if we mistake them for leads, then we have this sense of security that we have enough leads to hit our goals. When in actuality, those aren't leads at all. You've got 2,000 names and numbers or 2,000 names and email address. Those are potential prospects, but if only one or two of those are going to ever convert, those are where your lead's at. So an opportunity only becomes a lead once we can identify a specific motivation from a prospect. A prospect becomes a lead once we can identify their motivation, which, by the way, some of you have maybe heard me say this before, it goes against conventional wisdom. Most people think the number one reason why we do lead follow-up is to what? Set an appointment, right? Number one reason why we do lead follow-up, set an appointment. Wrong. The number one reason why we do lead follow-up is to determine their motivation and decide whether it makes sense to set an appointment. Number one reason why we do lead follow-up is to determine their motivation through asking a series of questions which are on the lead follow-up script, and then determining whether it makes sense to close for an appointment or not. And the reason for that is because motivated prospects love motivated agents. Unmotivated prospects love unmotivated agents. So most of you, I'm sure, since you're here, are motivated agents. So when you call a lead that's not that motivated, and you're motivated to meet with them, and you're motivated to set an appointment, guess what you're doing? You're actually turning them off. They're not interested in what you have to say after that because you're being too pushy. So instead, our job when we're doing lead follow-up, our number one job is to determine their motivation as quickly as possible. Well, how do I do that? You follow the script. Well, where do I get the scripts? Some of them are in your workbook, they're online, get them wherever you want. But the reality is, once I determine their motivation, then, and only then, I can make a decision whether it makes sense to set them up on a drip campaign, follow up in 24 hours, follow up in 7 days, follow up in 30 days. And then that's where my appointments are going to come in. From now on, I want you to focus on determining their motivation as quickly as possible and not closing so hard for an appointment. I wrote down, our job as salespeople is to talk to people and sell them on meeting with us only after we know their motivation. Our job as salespeople is to talk to people and sell them on meeting with us only after we determine their motivation. Stop looking for a system to do this for you. I think that's one of the biggest downsides of the industry today. Everybody thinks that it's easy to convert leads because they've got a system that can do that for them. Will you get results with a system or technology that will do that for you? Of course you will. But will you have a big business? Probably not. Because you'll only have a big business by getting, the cardinal rule of this industry is getting in front of a lot of people. So unless the system is getting you on an appointment a day, I'm sorry, your system is broken. Because we got a license to sell real estate. There's 8 to 10 working hours in a day. You can go find one person that's looking to buy or sell. And if your system is not getting you in front of one person to buy or sell, then it's something you need to change about you and your schedule and yourself to go get that. Because we all can figure out a way to get in front of one person a day if we actually work it. Stop expecting others to do this for you. You know, we have a lot of people ask about our prospecting boot camp. Hey, could I just hire you guys to train my ISAs? Well, our first response is, of course, we'd love to take your business and we'd love to help your ISAs. Our second response is, but why wouldn't you enter that program? Well, because I haven't really mastered it myself and I'm not going to be able to teach them as well as you can. Well, here's an idea. Why don't you get into the program and master it yourself and be able to teach agents how to do it for life and never have to hire us again? Wouldn't that save you a ton of money? You master it first, and then go teach other people how to do it. We'd love to continue to have your business, but I'd be straight up and honest and say you don't need to do that. You go through the program. You master the material. I wrote down with lead follow-up and lead conversion, we need to spend less time figuring out how technology will help us follow up with our clients so we don't have to. We need to spend less time figuring out how technology can help us follow up with our clients so we don't have to, and more time on our sales skills. We need to spend less time figuring out how technology can help you follow up with your clients so you don't have to, and more time on your sales skills. Because the reality is, it doesn't matter what system or technology comes out to make our lives easier, and there's some pretty cool ones out there, by the way. We still have to go present to a buyer in a buyer consultation, and we still have to go present to a seller in a seller presentation. So what happens in that case? You've put all of your energy and all of your eggs and all of your time into figuring out a system or a technology, and then you finally get an appointment, and you're competing with an agent that has mastered the sales game. You're competing with an agent that has mastered their sales skills, that can handle every single objection under the sun, that knows when to ask closing questions and knows when to back off. Those are the things that you should be spending your time on. I wrote down under lead follow-up, lead conversion, the JGA method. We have 7 steps that we follow. I'll share that with you now. So when we have a lead that we're trying to convert, here is the method. It's the same thing we coach our clients on. There's really 2 methods. One is the outside sales method, which is the 3x3x3 model. Okay, the 3x3x3 model, it's in the planner, if any of you guys got the planner. Very simple. 3 calls, 3 texts and emails within 3 days. That's our basic follow-up method on a hot lead. 3 calls, 3 texts and emails, all within 3 days. What do most agents do? Lead, call them, text them, they didn't respond, they throw it away. You know, every study under the sun says that most clients today are taking 5 to 6 attempts before they respond. 5 to 6. So we give up after 1 or 2, we're missing out on all these opportunities. So that is the typical, what we would call our lead follow-up method, the 3x3x3. 3 calls, 3 texts and emails, all within 3 days. So now we take that, we've got a lead, now what happens? Step 1. We call the lead as soon as possible. You know the timing is important there. That's why it's in our 3x3 rule. 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 5 minutes. The quicker we can get to it, the better. You guys know that. Step 2, if they don't answer, we then text and email right away. Immediately call the lead, because the best form of sales, or the greatest opportunity that I have of converting a lead, is talking to someone live. Hang up, immediately text and email. The message has to be open-ended. It cannot be a yes or no. The message that you send them, the email that you send them, has to be open-ended. Step 3, once a call and text has been made, we set them up on a seller drip campaign so they automatically get emails at that point. But that's like down the line for us, right? We don't count on those coming back at that point. Once we follow the 3x3x3, we get to this point in the process, we're not expecting that we're going to have all this business come back, which is amazing to me that so many agents, again, going back to have these leads that they believe at some point in time are going to come back to them. They're not going to. You want to know why? Because a good salesperson is going to get on the phone and talk to them before they respond to you. So we set them up on a seller drip campaign, so they're automatically getting stuff. Remember, we're not doing this in lieu of lead follow-up. We're doing this in addition to our efforts. This is in addition to. Step 4, we then put a reminder in our CRM to call them again. Depending on the lead source, you might be calling them later that night, you might be calling them the next day. In most cases, it's the next day. You're repeating the cycle, going back to the 3 by 3 by 3. Step 5. Once that time comes, we're sending out another text. What time do you have available to see homes this evening? I'm going to be in your neighborhood. What time do you have available later tonight for me to stop by and take a look at your home? Open-ended question. Make them prompt a response. Step 6. If they still don't respond, we set another reminder and another text message goes out. Again, 3 by 3 by 3. This is the 3 by 3 by 3 essentially in action. If after 72 hours we're not getting any response, we let the drip campaign continue until we get a hold of them, or if we don't, it doesn't matter, because in our mind, they're already in the trash. Because we believe the CRM, we call it jokingly the trash can. Because once it's in there, it may or may not come out. You know, you might dig in and grab something. Oh, this is supposed to be in the recycle bin. Okay, we'll start doing this a different drip campaign on this one. Once it's in there, it's out of sight. It's out of mind. Because the challenge that most agents have is they're so cluttered and clogged down by so many leads, they're missing out on the people that want to do something right now. So at this point, we've exhausted all efforts in getting in touch with them, and our mind is to a new lead. Our mind is to a new opportunity. There is our lead follow-up formula. Shifting gears. This is now we're starting session 2. Listing Mastery Part 2, pre-qualifying and determining motivation so that way we can identify their style. If everyone would do me a favor and open your book, the publisher forgot to put page numbers on here, so forgive me. There's a page that looks like this in the back. It says scripts. Okay, so turn until it's the very first page after the texting scripts. You'll see there the pre-qualifying script. So this will be the first time I walk you guys through this, what I call the dissection of the script. And the reason why this is important is because you go to a lot of events like this, and they'll say, oh, you know, you got to use this script. Yeah, you got to use this script. But nobody really explains why or why you ask things the way you ask them in the particular script. So I'm actually going to dissect this script with you. So what I would encourage you to do is somewhere on this script, you'll take some notes on what I'm going to share. Or, you know, if you have another notepad or if you're taking notes on your laptop, consider taking them in there. Now, before I jump into the pre-qualifying script, I want to share a couple things. The pre-qualifying process really does a couple things for us. Number one, it helps us identify the motivation of the prospect. So we talked about the number one rule in lead follow-up, determine their motivation. Pre-qualifying helps us determine that. It helps us determine whether it makes sense to go on the appointment, whether it makes sense to continue down the path on the phone with them or even going out and meeting with them. Because through the pre-qualifying script, there's a lot that we can determine to whether we can make the decision, whether it makes sense to go out on the appointment or whether it makes sense for us to continue talking to the prospect. The reality is with what I love about the pre-qualifying process is we can make a decision whether it makes sense to go, and if we don't go, we stay back. Well, why would we stay back? I'd rather just go home. Well, we stay back to find a better appointment. 3 rules on pre-qualifying. Write these down. 3 rules on pre-qualifying. We'll get back to the script in a second. We pre-qualify 100% of the appointments we set, no exceptions. Pre-qualify 100% of the appointments we set, no exceptions. You stand out, you appear more professional, you're deciding whether they're motivated and whether they're not motivated, whether it makes sense to go or not. Every single appointment we set goes through the pre-qual process, which I'll take you through in a moment. The second rule on pre-qualifying is asking 100% of the questions on the script. The script I'm going to walk you through has some pretty tough questions. We find that agents like to leave some of the questions off because they're a little too strong. It's designed to be direct, but at the same time, uncover objections. The third reason why we pre-qualify is to determine whether it makes sense to go or stay back and prospect for a better one. Determine whether it makes sense to go on the appointment or stay back and prospect for a better one. I tell our agents all the time, if you're not going to go on the appointment, then stay back and prospect. Let's replace that appointment. Well, I don't want to do that. Then go on the appointment. That's the whole point of the pre-qual process. So we can make a decision whether it makes sense to go or not. Pre-qualifying is not like brand new to the real estate industry. Major industries use the pre-qualifying process. Major companies use the pre-qualifying process. Doctors use the pre-qualifying process. Lawyers use the pre-qualifying process. We're going to show you something in just a moment of an example of not using the pre-qualifying process and the reality of how much time you waste by not doing so. Are we all adults here? Are we all 18 or up? Okay, anybody not 18? Good. There is, it's an R-rated scene, but it's not like that kind of R-rated scene, okay? It's, maybe an F-bomb here or there or something. Do we have the video ready? This is what happens to us when we don't pre-qualify. Let's take a look.
Hello?
Hi, Mr. Davis. This is Ron calling you from the Daily News. How you doing this morning?
It's Davis, and I'm not interested.
Okay, I'm sorry to have bothered you. Have a nice day.
Wait a minute. Wait, that's your pitch? You consider that a sales call?
Well,
I get a call from you guys every Saturday, and it's always the same half-assed attempt. If you guys want to close me, you should sell me.
All right.
All right, start again.
Okay. Hi. This is Ron from the Daily News. How you doing this morning?
Shitty, what do you want?
It's not what I want, sir. It's what you want.
Ron, now we're talking. All right, what are you selling me?
I'm offering you a subscription to the Daily News at a substantially reduced price. We're trying to reach out to people that have never had home delivery before.
Right, so basically you're saying that everybody else who already has a subscription is getting fucked on this one?
Yeah, I guess so.
All right, well, I can handle that. So tell me, why should I buy your paper? I mean, why shouldn't I get the Times or the Voice,
Well, the Village Voice is free, sir, so if you want it, you should certainly pick it up. But the Daily News offers you something no other paper can, a real taste of New York. We have the best features, more photographs than any other daily in New York, and we have the most reliable delivery in the city. Now, what do you think?
You know what I think, Ron? I think that was a sales call. Good job, buddy.
So you're going to buy a subscription?
No, I already get the Times.
Had he asked a question up front about perhaps what paper he already subscribes to, he may not have had to go through that entire process. So that's just a silly explanation of what happens when we don't pre-qualify. So if you would now turn back to the pre-qual script in your book, find that. Leave yourself some room because I want to walk you through this line by line. We have an appointment set. I get this question all the time. Do you go right into the pre-qual script after you set an appointment? And my response is always, it depends on how tough it was to set the appointment. Right? So if you think about, you're in the mode of setting an appointment, on the phone, face-to-face, through text, email, whatever. If I had to struggle, if I had to battle, if I had to fight for that appointment, I am not going right into the pre-qual script. I'm letting that appointment sink in. I'm giving a call back the next day, later that evening, to go back and ask this series of questions. If it was a fairly easy appointment for me to set, I've got them on the phone, they don't seem too agitated or like they're in a hurry, I'm going to go right into the script at that moment. So let me walk you through it. Obviously, before I come out, there's a number of questions I need to ask you. Number one question on the script, which, by the way, this script is like 30 years old. It's been updated a few times, but this script's been around for like 30 years. Not a whole lot has changed. These are the same conversations we have with every single seller. If what I say makes sense when I come out and you feel absolutely comfortable and confident, and I mean absolutely, you're feeling good about what I have to say, are you planning to get started with me when I come out? Well, we want to hear what you have to say first, or no, we couldn't possibly do that. We've got other agents we're interviewing. Whatever their response is, I can certainly appreciate that you have other agents you're interviewing, and of course, if you feel comfortable and confident with me, is there anything other than that that would stop you from putting me to work for you today? If you feel comfortable and confident, why wouldn't you? Now, when we look at that question, it sounds kind of strong. It's a little forward. It's direct. Well, the reality is it's the number one question on the script for uncovering what their true objection is. That's why I asked that question. I'm not looking for a yes. I'm looking for a why not. I'm looking for the reason that they would give as to why they wouldn't want to sign with me at that moment. So you're okay by asking it a second time in a different way. I find myself doing that often when I'm talking to sellers that don't really answer it clearly. If they don't give me a clear answer, then I'm probably asking it similar, but just in a different way, like I just did here. Question number 2, are you looking to interview more than one agent for the job of selling your home? Well, why would I ask them that question? I'm giving them an idea. You know, they could go actually maybe interview agents now. No, I'm trying to determine what position I'm in. Where am I at in line? Am I first in line? Am I second in line? Am I third in line? I want to know exactly what they're thinking in terms of who else they're meeting with. And I want to find that out. I want to arm myself with some data if I can. So I might even ask the question, oh, you're meeting with ABC Realty, XYZ Realty? Great. Who are you meeting with? I want to arm myself with some stats so that way I'm prepared to handle some additional objections when I get there. Question number 3, tell me again, where are you moving to? What takes you there? And remember that the why is more important than the where. I want you to make a side note here. Try to go 3 deep on this question and many of the others, by the way. It's one of the greatest things we can do as salespeople in this industry. What does 3 deep mean? Well, it looks like this. So tell me again, where are you moving to? Oh, we're moving down to Florida. Oh, that's great. What takes you to Florida? Oh, we've got a place down in Fort Lauderdale. We've been vacationing there, and so now it's finally time for us to go retire there. Oh, good for you. How long have you had a place in Florida? Do you have family down there? Where's the place in Florida at? Is it a condo? Is it a house? I'm asking them 3 to 4 questions within each one of these questions. It's called going 3 deep. And if you want to be a high-level salesperson and you don't want to sound scripted, you have to add 2 to 3 questions to every question in the script. You'll see it tomorrow when we do the live listing presentation from the stage. There's certainly a script that I follow, it's in the book, but you'll also see how I get off script by asking deeper questions. Well, what is asking deeper questions going to do for us? Well, if you ask deeper questions, then you'll have a higher level of rapport. Okay, well, if you have a higher level of rapport, then you have a greater chance of getting a contract signed. So from now on, in any sales situation, and when you're asking questions or you're following a script, I want you to go 3 deep as much as possible. Next question I have written down here. When I see you, how soon do you have to be there? Okay, we already gave you a second question. What's important about meeting that timeline? How did you arrive? Now, a lot of times they'll say to you, well, we're not in any rush. No, we're not in a hurry. They do that because if they give you a timeline, then they think you will think they are desperate. And if they think that you'll think that they're desperate, then you may come in with a lower price. You see, our customers are salespeople too. So they've got this game figured out. They got their own set of scripts back at the house that they're using against us or on us. So when I see you, how much do you want to actually list your home for? Well, I was planning on you telling me that, and I appreciate that. And as a professional real estate agent, I study homes and prices every day. Therefore, I assume you'll list with me at a price that'll cause your home to sell, correct? We're not going to give it away. Hey, I can appreciate that. I wouldn't want to give it away either. And if you don't mind me asking, what price is giving it away? Well, I mean, we've been kind of paying attention to what Zillow says, and we're thinking maybe $250, but I wouldn't go lower than $240. The good news is I haven't given one away yet. Regardless of what they say, when you ask the question, how much do you want to list your home for? Regardless of what they say, you always go to number, well, it's 5A. You always go to 5A. You never break this rule. Never get into a battle with them on price over the phone. I mean, you really shouldn't get into a battle with clients ever. It's easy to do, I get it. But over the phone, the moment you start talking price, you lose them. So no matter what they say, even if I disagree with the number, as a professional real estate agent, I study homes and prices every day. Therefore, I assume you'll list with me at a price that'll cause your home to sell, correct? Yeah, that's fair. Great. So what price won't you go below? Number 6, how much do you owe on the property? Well, why do you need to know that? Okay, because we use this script every single day, so we've been asking it. Well, I need to know that because then I need to determine whether you're in a situation where you have a lot of equity or no equity at all, because it's a different conversation. I tell you what, you don't have to tell me the number, but are you in a situation where you could potentially be upside down? Oh gosh, no, we've owned this home for 20 years, free and clear, whatever. Fine, I got what I needed. I don't need to know the exact number. I just need to know whether I'm going in a situation where they're upside down or not. So when I ask them, how much do you owe on the property, and they say, because they say this often, well, why do you need to know that? And by the way, do you know why they say that? They say that because, again, they don't want to show you their cards, because they think that if they tell you they don't owe a lot on the property, that you're going to give their house away. So when they ask you the question, why do you need to know that? Well, I simply need to know that to know if our conversation is one that might be a distress type of conversation, or one to where you have equity and we don't have to worry about that. And have you ever thought about selling it yourself? Well, of course, again, are we giving them an idea to sell it on their own? Of course we're not giving them the idea. What you'll find is, as a matter of fact, we're for sale by owner right now. Obviously, if you knew it was a for sale by owner and you were prospecting for sale by owners, then you're probably going to leave that question off. But if they say, well, yeah, we're having a few agents out to determine whether we're going to be selling by owner, and we might try that for a little bit and then hiring an agent. Perfect. Why do I want to know that in advance? I want to know that in advance because now I can be armed with the for sale by owner data. Which the for sale by owner data, by the way, is important because I can take out the study. You've heard me mention it a few times now. It's the collateral analytics study. And that study, it's called the collateral analytics for sale by owner study. That study backs up and provides evidence that shows that real estate agents really do net for sale by owners more money than they sell on their own. It's a third-party company, not related to a real estate company. They're not owned by Coldwell Banker or Keller Williams or National Association of Realtors. It's a neutral party studying for sale by owners. That shows of 100,000 or 200,000 sample size sales, by the way, which is a lot, that real estate agents actually do net for sale by owners more. And this is a whole nother conversation, but the reality is that if you develop that belief that you actually do net for sale by owners more, you'll win the game with for sale by owners. Because the number one mistake agents make when working with for sale by owners, they don't actually believe or think that they can do as good of a job, or maybe just a slightly better job. Until you believe that you can do a better job than they can and you can truly put more money in their pocket, you're not going to win with for sale by owners. Because it's a battle. They're a salesperson too. They're selling you on why they're going to get it done. And you need to show them why you can do better. Number 8, would you please describe your home for me? I have in parentheses here, listen for their personality style, keep them talking. Would you please describe your home for me? This is where the personality style stuff comes in. Because if I can identify their personality style, then I can make a note of that and be better prepared for the appointment. Because one thing we're going to spend a lot of time talking about tomorrow is you better have 4 different styles of presentation. 4 different styles of presentation. Meaning you have a script and you follow it for the most part. But do you present it in 4 different ways? Do you increase your rate of speech? Do you decrease your rate of speech? Do you go more emotional? Do you go more facts? Do you ask questions that are more logic-based, or do you ask questions that are emotion-based? Pre-qualifying helps you determine their personality style. Number 9, I'll be sending over a package of information. Will you take a few moments and review it? Of course, that is your pre-listing package. I believe we're working on those tomorrow as well. Finally, will all decision makers be there? And do you have any questions before I arrive? Obviously, I don't want to go present unless I know all decision makers will be there. And of course, the number one question that I get, do you have any questions before I arrive, is, well, what do you charge? What's your commission? And you know the standard answer at every time if you've been to one of our things before. That's a great question. I'm glad you brought that up. One of the first things we talk about when I come out. Or the alternative, I don't know, I haven't seen your house yet. Okay, if you want to give a reason. I don't know, I haven't seen your house yet. That'll be one of the first things we talk about when I come out. You should never talk about money over the phone. Not commissions, not home values. Never talk about that stuff over the phone. And then finally I wrote down, so you know, our meeting should only take between 15 and 30 minutes. Is that okay? And I'll look forward to seeing you on blank at blank. The pre-qualifying script is the fastest way to determine whether it makes sense to go on an appointment or not. Number one reason why agents don't pre-qualify is because they don't want to do the work to get another appointment. And my response to that is, if you're not going to do the work to get another appointment, then guess what? You go on the appointment, because I'd rather have you face-to-face with somebody. So if everyone would do me a favor, turn to somewhere back there, if you keep flipping the pages. I can hear our panel in the back. They're excited to talk to you guys. You guys can hear them too. Turn to this page here. Okay, it's a line through both ways. We're going to talk about how to identify the personality styles and how to adapt, more importantly. So what I want everyone to do in the top left-hand box, okay, I want everyone to put the letter D. Top left-hand side, the letter D. Top right, I want you to put the letter I. So D goes here, I goes here. Bottom left, the letter S. Bottom right, the letter C. So D-I-S-C. So at the top I have D-I, at the bottom I have S-C. Stands for the common DISC test that you're familiar with. If you haven't taken one, you can go to, just Google Tony Robbins DISC test. You can find it on there and determine who you are. So what I want to spend some time now before the panel comes up is talking about the traits of each style and also how we can adapt to each style. Because I think most of us, by the way, at this point, most of us know the traits of the personality styles. What we don't know is the best methods to adapt. So I'm going to walk you through that now. And the reason why, by the way, why this is important is because the National Association of Realtors says that if an agent goes on 4 appointments, they're going to get 1 contract signed, 25% gone on to taken. NAR tells us that. Well, why is that? Well, because there's 4 different personality styles in the United States and Canada. There's the high D, there's the high I, there's a high S, and there's a high C. And the reality is if most of us, and don't get mad, most of us have what I call personality-based businesses. Personality-based businesses, which means people list and sell homes with you because of your personality. And by the way, your personality helps you get contracts signed, it helps you build rapport. However, there's another half to this equation, or 75% for some of you that are really lacking versatility. And that is when you go out and present in a manner in which feels comfortable and natural to you. Meaning, you go out on a presentation and you are yourself. You're presenting in a manner that is like, this is how I would talk to my friends or whoever. Then you're losing out on 50 to 75% of the people you talk to. Some of them you're actually turning off. 25% of the people you go present, if you don't adapt, you're turning 25% of them totally off. So then we have the other 50% that we could maybe mix and mirror and match and do some things to build some rapport. So let's talk about this for a second. Let's go to the first box on the top left, the high D. I'm going to give you some strengths, and then I'm going to give you some challenges we have as agents, and of course, we could call these weaknesses in clients as well. So I have written down under D, I have determined. Determined. I have objective. These are their traits. Objective. I have dominant. Dominant. I wrote down driver. Driver personality. Strong-willed. Strong-willed. Makes decisions quickly. Loves action. Fast decisions, loves action. Bottom line oriented. Bottom line oriented. Bottom line oriented. Sometimes argumentative. Sometimes argumentative. They have a strong will, they have a strong opinion, they're going to argue with you. So here are some of our challenges with the high D. So if you want, those were some traits. These are some of our challenges with the high D. The high D is generally insensitive. It's true. So if we don't fix that, if we're on an appointment with an amiable or an expressive, we're going to lose. Challenges with the driver, we seem rushed and impatient. This is how the consumer views us if we're a high D. Rushed and impatient. We appear aloof and arrogant. Aloof and arrogant. Confrontational. Confrontational. Challenged with versatility. Challenged with versatility. Meaning, of the four, this is one of the toughest to get versatility around. They have a tough time adapting. Can be careless. Can be careless. Sometimes moves too fast. Sometimes moves too fast. And let me explain how that can be bothersome to some of these other traits. So at the top of your box here, I want you to just write the word fast. F-A-S-T, fast. And at the bottom, I want you to write slow. Slow. On the right-hand side, I want you to write feel. F-E-E-L. Feel. Feel on the right-hand side, just kind of somewhere near the spiral notebook, feel. Like you're writing the letters downward. I guess I should have specified that, like F-E-E-L. And on the left-hand side, I want you to write think. Think, T-H-I-N-K, think. So here's what happens. If you're a driver and you seem impatient, maybe a little careless, you're moving around fast, you're dominant, and you're going and presenting to someone on the bottom half who does things at a slower pace, you're going to turn them off. The driver and the high I have this thing in common, and it's called speed and quickness and fast moving. The challenge is that your bottom half people consider that as careless or pushy. So if I'm on the top half and I go present to somebody on the bottom, which I'll get to their traits in a moment, I'm going to turn off that prospect because I'm not adapting to them. So let's do the other traits and so we can see how to adapt. Let's move over to the right-hand side, top right, expressive. The high I personality style, persistent. Very persistent. Very strong-willed. They have that in common with the high D. Very strong-willed. Extremely outgoing. They are, without question, the most outgoing of the four. They're spontaneous. They're exciting. Spontaneous, exciting. Fast decision makers, as you know, they're on that top half. Very relatable. They're relatable because they like being social. Very relatable. And I wrote down the high I's, generally speaking, of the four, is the most natural salesperson. Meaning when you meet someone and they're like, man, they were just born with it. In most cases, those are the expressive personality styles because they have the ability to light up the room and the ability to build rapport with people they've never met, which is half the battle of being a great salesperson. Here are some of their challenges. Challenge with being a high I. Sometimes too outspoken and too gregarious. Too outspoken and too gregarious. You can't be too outspoken and too gregarious to somebody on the bottom half. And you'll see why in a moment once I get through them all. Too opinionated. Strong opinions. And oh, by the way, when they have an opinion, they are the most manipulative at convincing others of their opinion. Of the four traits, it is the most manipulative trait of the four, hands down. They are very good at convincing people to see what they see, even though there may be another thing to see or view. They have extreme emotions, high highs and low lows, very extreme emotions. Normally, always late. Normally, always late. Now, you high eyes, I can hear you laughing because you know that's true. They struggle with focus and intensity, by the way. We talked earlier about if you want to improve your skills on the phones, you just have to eliminate distractions and be more intense. They struggle with the intensity piece. And this is a challenge with the expressives. They fear rejection. Their number one goal in life is to be social and get everyone to like them. So if we already have the natural born sales piece in place, if I'm a high I in the room, I need to get over rejection real quickly. Because I know it goes against every fiber that you've ever believed in or communicated in. So how do we get over rejection? Well, the reality is to get over rejection, you have to be mindfully and painfully sometimes aware that rejection is the bridge to higher production. I used to have a sign right above my phone that said, the more rejection I get, the more deals I do. The more rejection I get, the more deals I do. The more I put myself in situations where I'm being rejected on a regular basis, the greater amount of transactions I have. Let's move over to the bottom left, the analytical. The analytical. Strengths. Logical, fact-based, dependable, punctual, the opposite of the high I. So if you're a high I and you've got an analytical appointment, well, no one should ever be late to any appointments, but that, above all, will turn off a high analytical. Organized, precise, systematic. Organized, precise, systematic. Perfectionist. Here's our challenges with the analytical style, or the high C. The C is also stands for compliant, if that helps you remember that. They tend to overanalyze things. They avoid confrontation at all costs. They overanalyze. They avoid confrontation. Dry sense of humor. They have a dry, however witty, sense of humor. Indecisive. They are the number one trait when they say they actually need to think it over, they really are thinking it over. Like they actually need to analyze all the data before they make a decision. Extremely low on emotion. indecisive, very low on emotion. They struggle with versatility, similar to the driver. They struggle with versatility. And of all 4 traits, they are the most adverse to change. They are the most adverse to change. In a moment, when we get back, once I go through this last one on amiable, sometime this afternoon or where I can squeeze it in, I'm going to give you ways to adapt to all 4. But let me get you to the last one. The amiable, also known as the high S. D-I-S-C. Hold on. I wrote my papers backwards. C is the analytical, which we just covered. Now we're on S. Okay. Now we're on S. See, here's what happened is, I had you write it the way I said it, but my piece of paper doesn't match the way I had you write it. So just making sure everyone's paying attention. So now we're on the S, the amiable, the S. C, how do you know what C is? C stands for compliant. Analyticals are compliant. The I is the expressive or the influencer. The D is the driver or the dominant. So now we're on the amiable, the S. Strengths: cooperative, agreeable, friendly and warm. Cooperative, agreeable, friendly, warm, great listener. Great listeners. The best of the 4, by the way. And by the way, the amiable has the greatest chance of adapting to the 4. They have the greatest level of versatility. Values harmony. Harmony. Very selfless. And always giving. Always giving. Here's the challenges that we have if we're an amiable or we're communicating with an amiable. Here's where they have struggles. The amiable seek acceptance. They seek acceptance too often. Which in this business, we're in a business of getting rejected all the time. So if you're a high amiable and you want to list a lot of property, you have to get over that. Challenge, we avoid conflict. High amiables avoid conflict. We're generally slow in taking action. Soft-spoken. Slow in taking action. Soft-spoken. Prefers to live in a comfortable box. Amiables and the high S's really avoid change and getting out of the box. Comfortable with my people, comfortable with the way I do things. So what I wanted to do, because there's really 2 parts. Number 1, I wanted you to get all of the traits first. And then when we get back into my content, I'll give you, okay, if you're a driver, how do I adapt to the amiable? If I'm a high I, how do I adapt to the high C? So we're going to get into that in a moment. But my watch tells me that we're ready for our next session. So if we could have the chairs brought up first, or if everybody could. Okay, good. Introductions. So let's bring out. We have it? Oh, thank you. So welcome to the stage our panelists. We have Mr. Eric Monzo, Frank Montreux, Seychelle Van Poel, Daniel Beer, and Christy Smith. Come on out, guys. Come on down. Let's hear it for them.
To keep my hands on myself.
Welcome.
Think I'll dust them off, put them back up on the shelf.
Let me slide this out of the way for you.
Just a little baby girl is in need.
Grab a seat, guys. We're going to put a microphone here. I'll give you guys one, and I'll put one over your shoulder there.
Well,
all right.
thank you kindly.
There we go. Okay, so we like to have a little bit of break in the action, and quite frankly, we like doing panels for a couple reasons. Number one, because not everyone from here, or not everyone that's out in the audience today, is from the state of Michigan, as we saw earlier. So a lot of people say, yeah, that wouldn't work in my market. Yeah, that wouldn't work in my market or where I'm at. So we like to bring other people up so we can hear what they're doing in their market, because I will tell you almost every time it does work in your market, and you'll see that. But also in this particular panel, what I'm mostly excited about is the topic of becoming a listing master. Becoming a master of dominating listings is not only important from, okay, what does the presentation and the sales skills look like, but where do you guys get these leads? Where, you know, this is like I'm not finding a lot of sellers, or our inventories are low. So if you would, I will start with Eric first, and we'll work our way down. Do me a favor and introduce yourself. Tell us where you're from, location, brokerage, how long you've been in the business, and I'll repeat these because I have a little lengthy list here. So where you're from, location, brokerage, how long you've been in the business, transaction and or volume, whatever comes to mind that you did last year, and your goal for this year, and of course your zodiac sign.
Zodiac. I don't know the zodiac sign, so I apologize.
Well, tell us your birthday. We'll try to figure it out for
August 25th. Don't forget it.
you. Okay.
Expect
What do
something
we
in the
know?
mail.
What's August 25?
Leo? Okay. All right.
Virgo?
Learn something new every day.
All right, so now you know. You're a Virgo. Now you can start reading your horoscopes in the paper and start telling people how your day's going to be.
I'll start winking too. No worries.
All right, take it
So,
away.
as Jeff said, my name's Eric Monzo. I run a team out of Keller Williams, Great Lakes. So we are affiliated with Jeff. It's in Mount Clemens, which is about 15 to 20 minutes outside of the city of Detroit. We have a team of 30 agents that work with us. Some of those good-looking folks over there in the back right. Last year we did 780 transactions. This year the goal is 1,000.
Love it. Love it. Let's 780 transactions. Let's hear it for him.
Thank you.
See, he's on my tail. So next year I'm going to have to say, well, we're not number one in Michigan anymore, because it sounds like you might be, buddy. Oh. All right, thank you. Thanks for being here. Frank.
I was born on the 4th of July. Are there any cancers in the room? Put your hands up. All right.
Cancers, all right.
From Keller Williams Preferred Real Estate, the beautiful Orland Park, Illinois. I've been in business for 36 years. Last year I closed 374 transactions to the tune of $64 million and some change. Anything else you need to know about me?
All right, well, let's hear it. That's good. That's good.
Now you know who you were hearing back there, by the way.
Yeah.
Throw money, throw money.
Love it. All right, Seychelle, good to see you.
Hi, everybody. Seychelle Van Poel from Dallas, Texas. And we're with Keller Williams down in Dallas. And we did 74 million last year, 225 sales. This year we'll do 325 sales for 112 million. And I'm a Virgo.
All right, another Virgo. Hey, you guys we're hitting it off backstage, huh? All right, let's hear it for her. Daniel.
Hey, I'm Dan Beer from San Diego. Run the beer home team at eXp Realty. Last year we did 303 transactions, 215 million.
I like
Awesome.
your price point.
All right,
We
that average
want
sales
Dan's
price sounds
point.
good to me.
I'm a Gemini.
And you're Gemini. Hey, I'm a Gemini. All right, cool.
you
Let's
go.
hear it for him. That's a great volume. Great volume.
Hi there, I'm Christy Smith from Indianapolis, and I run the Indy Homes team, indyhomes.com, and I'm a Sagittarius. We started in 2003, and my goal this year is 75 million, and that'll be about 160 transactions.
Love it. All right, let's hear it for her. That's great numbers. So what I love about this panel is we have someone from every different part of the country, essentially, and they're all doing big numbers, so I'm excited to dig into this. And by the way, thank you again. I don't know if you guys were in the room when I shared the story, but that was based on our conversation last night at the Hotel Indigo, so thank you. Both Dan and Christy said, hey, nobody knows your story. You got to share it. So thank you for having me do that. Okay, so I have written down here, how did you arrive, being that we're talking about building a listing-based business, how did you arrive at the decision that you wanted to focus on sellers versus buyers? How did you come to that realization? What was it that sparked that, and why was that important to you at that time? How did you arrive at that? Go for it.
Going down the line?
Oh yeah,
Okay,
whoever.
so
I mean, you know, often.
You hate my answer with this one.
Hey,
And
no.
I'm gonna go. So we did a panel at the DAC in Detroit,
Yep.
and this is not something. This wasn't a decision I ever made in my real estate career. It's something that just kind of happened organically and naturally. I've always looked at it as, you know, buyers are sellers and sellers are buyers. And if you're working hard and you're working every single day and you're treating your clients the right way, they're gonna come back to you, and they're gonna come back and they're gonna be sellers. So, you know, my business, obviously, when I realized that, how much less effort came into it, I obviously latched on and we grew the team, so.
Awesome, love it. All right, great. Who else wants to tackle that one? Seller business. How did you arrive at the decision to do seller business?
So I'd reached the ceiling, right? Most of my business was buyer business. I'd reached
Yep.
the ceiling, just like you were talking about earlier. And, you know, I think there's so many people in that messy middle that now is becoming the term for when you're trying to break through and trying to do more. And I was having a conversation with somebody at lunch, and I just, you know, for me, I decided that I had worked my last buyer, which was a very scary decision because that was my business, right? I only was listing homes by accident, or someone I'd sold a home to would miraculously call me and ask me to list it.
Yep.
But I found somebody, and that's what we all have to go do. We have to find somebody. I found somebody that I had the confidence to hand them the buyer business. And I said, this is it. I'm not doing another buyer transaction regardless of if it's my brother,
Yep.
my mom, my dad, doesn't matter.
Yes.
I'm done.
Yep.
And so that might sound like I gave up my entire business, but keep in mind I didn't go to 0%. I still had, you know, at the time 60% of that income with that person running the buyer business. So I gave up 40% to get 100% of my time back.
Yep.
And that was a risk that I took that I felt was worth taking.
Yep.
And businesses have to do that at some point.
So you gave up, which by the way, I've encouraged agents for years to use the showing agent model.
Which would have been probably an even better step. I
Yep.
just didn't know that model at the time.
Yeah, and you essentially did that. You did that without even knowing it.
Right, but if I had known that model, I could have done it and actually kept more. And so instead of keeping 60.
Well, yeah,
I
because
kept
a showing agent, you might pay 25% or 20% depending on your market.
That leaves you with all your time, or left me with all my time to fill it with listing business.
Yep, makes sense.
So with Dan, that was very similar to how we arrived at the listing business as well. Is I got in the business in '04 in Dallas, and that was when we were still a red hot sellers market, and I worked buyers, which was a genius move. And you know, every buyer I worked with was over the barrel. You know, my first year I think I did 36 buyers, and so every buyer transaction you're just begging, you know, you can have my firstborn, you can have whatever. Right, and so between '04 and '07, I did buyers, and for me, I wanted more control on the transaction. I wanted more control of my time. The showing agent model wasn't around yet,
Yeah.
and I wish it had been when I was in that model. And I learned, we have an amazing team, and one of our team members, Marie, was coming back into the team, and I trusted her with my life, and it was the right who that we were able to bring into the buyer business, and I was brilliant, right, in '07, and then turned to be a listing agent, and that was right when our market tanked. So for the first 8 years of business, I was never on the quote-unquote winning side of the transaction.
Yeah.
I was always in the difficult side, but what I loved about the listing side is I could control the expectations that I set, which allowed me to create quality of life, which allowed me to have a marriage that I wanted, which allowed me to grow and focus on building our team and pouring into our people and learning what I needed to do to become a business leader so that we could then create opportunities for people in our organization to continue to grow.
So this isn't, and again, if somebody else wants to take that, go for it. But one of the things that just came to mind that I think the audience always wonders when we hear this conversation of giving up the buyer business to focus on sellers, what goes through a lot of agents' minds, which probably went through my mind as well when I made that decision, was, yeah, but what am I sacrificing? What am I giving up? How am I going to be able to afford to do that when I'm used to working this business? You know, I did 3 buyer deals last month. If I don't do 3 buyer deals this month, I might not be able to pay the bills. So isn't there this kind of like taking a step back to take 2 steps forward that you have to go through that just is painful, and maybe you're broke for a little bit, or what does that look like?
And we're in business, right? So that might require an investment. And so often agents are looking to not do that. I think that is a big fear. Remember, you're not going to zero. You're still going to collect income from that buyer business. It's just not going to be 100% of it anymore. But I think the other challenge people face too is they say, but I've tried to bring people on, and they leave or they take advantage of me or they this. I can't find a high enough quality person to have the confidence in to do that.
Yep.
Well, when a lot of us are bringing on people to the team, your first, second, third agent, and all they're getting is the scraps, you still do all the business and they just get what you kind of don't want. That's very different from when I told somebody, even if my brother's going to buy a home, it's yours.
Huge. That is huge. And I love that you said that, because that, I believe, is the number one challenge that outside sales agents and showing agent, that relationship has. It's all or none. Right? It's all or none. You can't pick or choose, because you never know when that one buyer that you know that, well, I just sold their house, so they have to buy. Next thing you know, you show them 10, 12, 15, 30 homes, and then they're renting for the next year or two because they couldn't find anything. It's got to be an all or none mentality. And do you guys have any thoughts on that?
Well, yeah, I may be a little bit different. So remember, I was born on the 4th of July. So I've been around probably longer than everybody's added up in this room combined. I started 36 years ago. In 1990, I was a buyer's agent. So in 1990, a lot of investors started approaching me because of the value they saw of me as a buyer's agent. So I had a lot of business starting to come, and that's where I started transition. I didn't just jump in all or nothing. I had to make sure that I was paying my bills and keeping the lights on, but at the same time, I had a plan in place. And I realized that this was an opportunity, and I love the fact that if I have a listing and the buyer falls apart, I still have a listing, I'm still going to get paid.
Yep.
So that really attracted me to start chasing the sellers, and then I figured out ways where to find the sellers. However, if you're new out there and you're getting into the game, at least you better have a plan. You can't just say, hey, look, I'm going to go, it's all or nothing. I think you have to eventually do that, because I don't show houses to buyers anymore. To become extremely proficient in working with listings, you have to take it to this level, you have to be all or nothing. However, I think transitioning, Jeff, maybe we're saying the same thing. I think you need to have a plan and make sure that you have money coming in. Maybe that's kind of what you were saying too. So yeah, so make sure that you have a projected plan of where you're going to find these sellers from, and I'll be glad to talk to you about how I do that. But also keep your business going until you can fully transition. Then you go zero out.
Yeah, you have to be at a point where you start to develop a small listing inventory, and you have enough pending business to where you can sustain giving up that chunk of change to a showing agent. So that way, it's an all or nothing, but there's a little bit of gap there where you can help bridge the gap to move forward to that all or nothing spot. But you can't let the transition period or the all or nothing phase that you're working on last for a year or two, right? It's maybe 90 days, 120 days, something like that.
Well, and
Eric,
Jeff,
go ahead.
I think that's where starting on the buy side really benefits a lot of agents, because you understand the market, you understand what buyers are saying in a seller's home. You understand the mentality to them when you're sitting there with a seller and they don't want to replace their beautiful royal blue carpet. You can, with authority and with conviction, let them know what that objection handler needs to be to overcome that objection. Whereas if you don't have any experience or validity in the business yet, and you're just jumping in with sellers, I think you're going to feel like you're flying a little bit more blind.
Yeah.
Instead of having been a showing agent or been a buyer's agent, I think for me that was such a benefit, having those 3 years of experience being in and out of hundreds of homes, to be able to then say, listen, this is what the market's telling us. I can tell you what the buyer will say in your house.
The knowledge,
and that helps you convert
the
faster.
knowledge that you gained by doing that, by being on that side first, led to the confidence to be able to sit at a seller's table and know what you're talking about. Right? Love it. Anybody else have anything to add to that? Okay, next question I have. So what changed in your business when you shifted your focus towards sellers? So when you made that decision, what did you see take place? What changed in your business?
I'll answer that one. So I was really burnt out in my price point. The suburban price point I'd been doing was about $250 for like 10 years in a row. So I think I sold the same 4-bedroom, 2.5-bath house 3 times. Literally, they just kept calling me to sell it. So for me, the double down on listings included a focus on price point. So we made it our one thing, and in the first year, we increased our average sales price by $100,000, and it's just been about 3 years now, and we're up to 465. So that was a huge thing for us. Now, I was surprised that transactions dipped, so our transaction count had been so
Yep.
high.
Yep.
And I'd always heard in markets like yours, oh, you do less transactions with this high price point. And we had the staff and the manpower to do all the same number of transactions, but it happened. I really didn't think it would happen to me,
Yeah.
and it did. So that was a shift for us to understand.
So just to be clear on that, you focused on a higher price point and your transaction count essentially went down because probably in your market, like most markets around the Midwest, there's not as many high-end sales taking place. So when there's not as many taking place, less available means less closings in most cases.
Sure, but what I was able to do when we did this is sit down and say, who is the most ideal customer for us? If you're not defining who you want as a customer, then you just are reactive to whatever lead comes in the door or what phone, when your phone rings. So we actually said, I wanted to work with professional people who treat me as an advisor so that I could really show up as a consultant for them. And that was the way I wanted to do business, and that's how I wanted to be a listing agent. So we just led with that. And so all of our pieces, all of our messaging, all of our graphic design, website, everything really leads with me wanting to be hired by the kinds of people that are used to hiring a CPA or an attorney or a physician, just like that.
Now this will be a fun one, and Eric, if you don't mind chiming in, because you're kind of on the opposite end of the spectrum. Take it away.
So my business, when I transferred over into a listing-based business, to me it was revolutionary. It changed everything about me and my business across the board. As the listings came in, I'm starting to now give my buyers to my buyer's agent. And so when I relinquished that control, which was extremely hard for me, I realized, oh my God, I can do this with everything else too. And critical point was, I would say, admins, right? Mm-hmm. You're bringing people on to, again, do part of not only the buyer's agent stuff, but now they're doing part of your actual listing job. Mm-hmm. And when that clicked in my head to where I could relinquish control for many other things besides just the buyer's side, that's when I saw my business really take off.
Sure.
And that was just, that was a huge jump for us.
Well, not only that, but it also makes it more attractive. Agents want to be a part of what you're doing with your team because you're taking a lot of the administration off their plate. Right? So you're seeing it in your agents that are also, they have leverage, right? Same thing with agents on teams using showing agents. That is an opportunity to leverage yourself so you can go out and either get more buyer business or get more seller business.
Last piece of the equation, I gotta learn to have somebody else handle the fires. If there's anybody that wants to apply for that job.
Oh, darn, you don't like that part of the job? All right, good. So next question I have is, what did your process look like and or what did you have to change to make a listing-based business your focus? What did that process, what did you go through, or what did you have to change to where you said, you know what, this is it, this is what we're doing? What did that process look like, that decision and or the action steps to make that shift?
I think for our team, the biggest part for us was really identifying where the market of the moment is in our geographic area. And the best example I can give of how not to do it is before the 2007 downturn, we had 35 listings over $1 million sitting on the market. And our market went to first-time home buyers. Like our market went down to 150,000 was the only thing that was moving for 18 months. And
Yep.
I mean, we couldn't give a house away. So you're carrying this great inventory, but if you can't give it away, or even, shoot, you're like, I'll pay you to buy this house, just take it.
Yep.
That really taught us a big lesson on what you focus on expands, and we had been very luxury focused, which was great, until luxury didn't sell. And so we're very intentional about making sure that we're really identifying different pockets of each price point, whether it's relocation or whether it is, move up buyers, or whether it's luxury. We're really making sure that we're looking 18 to 24 months out of, if the market were to turn, what do we have to do? And so what's nice is, Dallas is already 1 year into a market shift. Our shift started July of last year. So what was really neat was being in relationship with a lot of these luxury builders, because we watched our numbers every week. We could be strategic with them and say, listen, if your specs aren't done, They've got to be on the market now. We got to get out of the luxury business, and we're all diving down into first-time home buyers. And now we have 120 first-time home buyer specs coming up.
Yep.
But if we weren't paying attention to that and being really strategic about the geographic market of the moment, we would have been caught upside down big time.
Yep. No, I love that. And there's probably 50 other examples of ways you can kind of get ahead of the market shift, and that's a perfect example of that. What else? What did you go through? What was that process like?
Yeah, as far as the decision goes, I didn't want the life I was living anymore, right? I didn't like it. I didn't enjoy it. I didn't like the fact that I had to jump in the car at someone's whim and chauffeur them around, and I didn't want it anymore. So the way I actually saw it is I gave up my job. I gave up what I had, but I was still earning. Basically, I went on a paid training. I was going to earn 60% instead of 100. I was going to earn 60% of what I used to earn, and I was earning more than I needed. Okay, so I was earning more than I needed. I was willing to go on a 60% rate as a paid training, and that paid training was I started to study scripts. I started to learn how to prospect expireds. I started to study direct response marketing. I started to put the pieces together that then became what's today our platform. And those first few years, today I'm very marketing heavy, but it was learning those scripts, so many of which you now teach, and I have to say I've definitely improved on from what was out there before.
Thank you.
But it was...
Wait, are you calling our old scripts crap?
No, the industry ones.
Oh,
out there.
okay.
No,
thank
not
you.
your
Not
old
yours.
scripts.
Got it. Okay,
The
good.
ones out there.
The industry. No, that was a real compliment.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
So, but and the way I thought of it was, I'm going to go through this. I'm going to get up on Saturday. I'm going to get up on Sunday. I'm going to learn how to generate income to replace what I'd given up. And as that income comes in, I also had a financial plan for how much of it would go to my family, how much of it would go to expenses, to savings, but how much of it would go back in the business to then develop my, a real asset that we would own through our marketing programs, which we may or may not talk about in a little bit. But
Sure.
that was the thought process.
So
and
what I heard in
decision
that,
points.
just to kind of recap, is you were comfortable giving up a large chunk of the revenue or a large chunk of the commission to spend the time training and getting good at mastering the seller business before you dove in fully. And now that you've dove in fully, yes, there's going to be a little bit of a lull during that process, but you make it up on the other end.
And I'll say this, and I'm actually processing this right now as we speak, and hearing you say that, is one thing I did really right is I didn't spend years and years getting ready to never do it, to never make a change, and then wonder why nothing's changing.
Sure.
I was willing to just jump in and do that in a calculated way. I knew that I could live on that 60% and my family would be okay and the mortgage would get paid.
Yep. Great.
Jeff, I think what we did is we doubled down on why would this house sell and this house wouldn't sell, right? I don't want to be in the listing business. I want to be in the sell house business. Remember, there is a difference between getting a listing that is just a headache, it sucks your money, and it really can impact your reputation with too many for sale signs, especially if it's in your niche community or neighborhood. They want to say sold as quickly as possible. So a lot of agents have this wishing, hoping, praying strategy and the MLS, and that is how they sell houses.
Yep.
So what we really did is study the science. I have a healthcare background and my husband's a physician, and evidence-based medicine, you can't do anything in medicine without the evidence and the clinical pathways letting you do it, and insurance won't pay for it. So, but real estate agents weren't doing evidence-based practices, they were just using a dartboard. So we know that women are the home buying decision makers of the family. We know that people really want to buy something that they want to buy, and if you don't have a sellable product, then price is your only negotiating ability, and we want to protect your equity. So we really figured out why houses sell and doubled down on that, and now we're selling every one.
Awesome. Love it. Let's shift gears a little bit, guys. Let's talk about your top 3 sources for listing taken. Now, it can be so far this year, it could be last year, it can be last 12 months. What comes to mind when you think about your top 3 sources? And my follow-up question to that will be, for those of you that answer, is, okay, what makes that, when you look at your top 3 sources of business, let's pick one and let's talk about why that's your preferred source. So let's first start with the top 3 sources.
My top sources are referrals, and by referrals I mean referral sources, okay?
Yep.
Repeat business, and investors.
Okay. Referrals, referral sources, which we'll maybe dig into that one, repeat business, and investors.
Correct.
Got it, okay?
Finders, for lack of a better term, or bird dogs, auctions, online auctions, and then offline auctions, the sheriff sales, the judicial sales.
Yep.
That's where we get a lot of inventory from.
Yep, which one of the reasons you're on this panel is because that's not always a common one, so we're going to hear about that in a second.
Yeah,
So
I'd like to talk about the finders too. I've got some
Good.
ideas for the people.
Love it. So
peoples.
we're going to dig into that in a second, so keep that in mind. Seychelle, top 3.
Our top 3 are past client sphere of influence, agent to agent referrals, and Yelp.
Really? Wow, okay. Past client, sphere of influence referrals, agent referrals, and Yelp. Got it. Dan, top 3 sources.
Our top 3 are farming, radio, and what we call listing marketing, which we categorize as anything that comes off a listing, such as open houses being the heaviest of that,
Yep.
and sign calls.
Got it. Perfect. Christy, top 3 sources.
Yep, our number 1 is repeat referral sphere, SOI. Number 2 is indiehomes.com. We doubled down on our website. And number 3 is direct mail.
Got it. Okay,
Farming.
direct mail. Interesting. I love that. Okay, so what I'd like to do is kind of go down the line. If you would pick one of those 3 that you shared, whichever one's your favorite or whichever one is your most productive, pick one of those 3 and kind of share with us why that's a big source of business for you and what's unique about it into the in other words, if I'm in the audience and I wanted to go after that source of business, what I would need to do or implement.
Okay. So my choice would be investors. And how many of you guys out here absolutely cannot stand working with investors? Raise your hand.
Come on, get your
All right,
hands
liars.
up. We know it's like 90%.
All right. Normally, you know,
You love getting that call. Yeah, we want to buy
Right.
$10,000, $30,000 homes. We want you to do all the work,
Right.
and we want you to give us 1% of your commission back.
Right. So, and this was something that we really had to work on as a team, okay? Because a lot of our agents came over with a retail mentality, okay? And the investor-based business, I never understood why the majority of real estate agents absolutely hated it. Now, that's how I came up in real estate. When I was 19 years old, I started buying rental properties, and you know, the only reason I got my real estate license is because I wanted to find the good deals. So I've been around investors. I was an investor. I'm used to them.
Yep.
And you're going to see something. I mean, we're moving to a more traditional real estate market right now. It's not, you know, it's not seller's market, you know, off the charts. And I know, you know, we're from
Every
different
market's
places
different.
in the
Yep,
country,
yep.
of course. But where we're at, it's again transitioning into a more traditional market.
Balanced.
So out of the referrals that you're talking about, or the sources that we're talking about, who are the most stable? And the most stable to me are those investors, those bread and butter investors that are always there, that are always looking. And so that's why, you know, again, we're going to really focus on that
Yep.
a lot this year. But as I had to sell this to our team, the concept is not just that I'm going to sell to investors or I'm going to sell to retail. Ask yourself this question, okay? Are you working with somebody who is going to be an account? All right, and I learned this. I used to sell computers, and I was an account man, and that's what I did. You sold the guy one time, and after those transactions adds up, that guy trusts you, and he comes back, and he comes back, and he comes back, and you have to ask yourself, okay, why would you not want to work with somebody that you can build a rapport with one time, that you can earn their business one time, and it just keeps coming?
You're an account manager.
Yes.
I love that.
Yeah.
So instead of looking at your client as a transaction,
Yep.
a listing or a sale, that's an account that you're going to have for life.
And yeah, I'm talking about investors here, but that's not it, right? I mean, you're also talking about those cheerleaders as well. You're also talking about those lifelong relationships, the people that you can see past the one transaction.
Yep, I love that. So now, that was great, by the way. Eric, I have a follow-up question on that. Sure. What do you say to an agent that says, yeah, but investors, it's like twice the work for half the commission because the price points are so low? What do you say to that?
So, and again, you know this, we do minimum commissions, so you know, I'll make that argument, but I'll show them how it's easy. And normally the argument is not, I'm not going to make enough money, okay? Because we work the clients we have.
Yep.
If they had somebody else, we wouldn't be having the conversation, right?
Yep.
But I will take them by the hand, I'll introduce them to an investor, I will teach them the language, and I will show them that paycheck. And sometimes, I mean, again, with investors, sometimes you don't even show the house, you know?
Yep.
What's your average time on a deal?
Our off-market stuff?
Yeah,
I mean,
probably not 38 and a half hours.
Oh my God.
That's
Right.
what I'm saying. So
Yep.
We'll talk more about it, but
Yeah, sure.
yeah, I mean, we can flip a house in 5 minutes
Yep.
if it's priced right.
Got it. Love it. All right, awesome. Thank you for sharing that. Frank, number one source or top
I'm gonna
source?
do a
That,
little twist
great.
here, okay? So I'm going to talk about bird dogs. So there's a lot of, and Eric knows what I'm talking about because we do the same kind of dance. I concentrate heavily on flips. So I'm always looking for off-market places to find properties. And the one thing is a lot of these bird dogs don't know what they're doing. So they've got the property priced closer to retail than they do that it would work. So what I do is I convert those into listings. And I tell them, look, you want to get paid, bro, then we'll put it all together, we'll package it all together and make sure you get paid, but I got to get the listing. So, but backing up, first of all, if I were here today and I were speaking to this audience, I am, and I would give you some advice. I would say you want to start building your investment business, start looking for bird dogs. You can go online, you can go on Facebook, you can go on investment groups. Probably the biggest thing I could drop on you today is go to meetups. So whatever your town is, I did your town, and I did Brighton. I can pull it up off my phone. Brighton, Michigan, real estate meetups.
Yep.
That's all I did. I came up with 5 groups that meet on a regular basis, and they have an audience of anywhere from 374 to thousands of people. There's now the reason why that works well for a newbie, a new agent, is there's going to be a lot of new investors there. A seasoned investor that goes to the bigger places like the auctions, the online, offline auctions, they will sniff you out in a New York minute. They really want to deal with seasoned people, and they don't want to have to take on a guinea pig. The newer investor, and there's plenty of them out there that have $500,000 line of credit, $1 million line of credit. So there's investors are unlimited. I mean, I have thousands of investors. I can't even get to them, because I go to a lot of different investor group meetings. But if you're interested in chasing investors, go online and research the meetups, the real estate meetups, and then start attending them. And you have to figure out your brand, your value, because your value, if you're brand new and you don't have any experience, then you have to talk about your office experience. You have to talk about the fact that you're willing to work day and night.
Yeah.
Because they want, a lot of people are busy. That's why I have a huge team, because I am busy. So they may not be able to reach me, but they can reach somebody else. But going back to the meetups, you can meet investors aren't the only people that go there. There's lenders, hard money lenders. There's bird dogs. So you have to go in there and put your hunting outfit on and go get them. When I get up and speak at an investor group, and I speak a minimum once a month, I always go, raise your hand if you're a bird dog. And I got my team there, and they're looking around. They're gonna go get them. I said, raise your hand if you're an investor and you need some off-market properties. So, I mean, you got to have a plan. And I have a plan when I go in. But for a newer agent or an agent that's new to the investment game, and you want to get in the investment game, I would recommend starting at the meetups, and then start building your brand, and if you want to transition into that world, start building a brand. And the more experience you get and the better job you do, you can start growing into working with more accomplished
So
people.
can I ask a question that some of the audience may be wondering? Explain bird dog in the real estate industry to us. A lot of us may know the bird dog in like a car business or something, but explain how that works in the real estate industry.
Right. So a bird dog is a person that gets offline properties, and they have multiple ways of getting it. I've got guys that spend thousands of dollars a month on direct marketing, There's other guys that do a lot of door knocking in the area. They drive by, door knock. There's a lot of hustlers out there, but it's someone that has a game plan, and I'm looking for people that they can bring me properties on a regular basis offline, because as we know, the MLS is very difficult to buy off of from a wholesale perspective, and you got too many people that don't know what they're doing, and too many agents that don't know what they're doing, and they're getting the wrong information, and they're paying up. So I mean, another thing I do is I go look at old closed properties, Jeff, and I call those people up, and we get a hold of them, and we make offers on their houses. Like, this has been sitting for 2 years. Do you want to get rid of it?
Yep.
You know, because they realize they bought it for too much money, and if they rehab it, they're going to lose even more money.
Yep. So how does the bird dog get compensated?
So what the bird dog has to do legally is what they do. The smart ones will tie the properties up and assign it.
Got it.
It's real simple. Don't complicate this thing, guys. Don't, you're here today. Figure out, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 things that can change your business. Keep it simple. Don't make this complicated.
Right. All right. Thank you for that, Frank.
I
Seychelle.
would just add something else
Yes.
real quick. I think, at least for our region, so the bird dog traditionally is more often called wholesalers in our neck of the woods, or assigners. So
Wholesalers or signers is another word for bird dog. Gotcha. And their number one job is to go out and find properties to essentially sell to investors.
we touched on this at the.
Yep, that's right. Great. Seychelle.
I love that. So our business is completely opposite.
Yep. Which is why we have this
which
great
is why
combination.
this is so great. I'm
Yep.
taking notes from you guys. Our business really believes in working deeply with and through long-term relationships with people. And so, like, I'm not looking to have a database of 50,000 people. I want, a database of, several hundred people that I've met over the last several years, and I'm getting to know you really well. And what we put into place 2 years ago that's really exploded our listing business is we asked the question, if somebody's already shown at some point in business that they're willing to know, like, trust, or refer me, what could I do that gets that top of mind awareness to where instead of once a year or once every 5 years they think of us, that they might be willing to refer us once a year, twice a year, 3 times a year. And so we did something really simple where we created a Raving Fans quarterly package that we send out to anyone who's referred us in the past year.
Yep.
And we used it as an excuse to leverage relationships with local business owners to buy from them in their off season. So now we're doubling down on getting great relationships with local business owners that are entrepreneurs, and let's say, like, for example, florists. I don't know if you knew this, but July is their slowest time. So we would buy, like, an arrangement from them, and we would box it up with all of our branding and packaging on it, and that's when we would buy from them. The same thing, like, you don't want to buy a Christmas item from a Christmas store in the middle of December, right? Buy it when it's their off season, and then save it and ship it. And so that took us from, we started that in 2017. We had 163 referrals from people that had shown that they know, like, and trust us. Last year we had 225 from just changing that one simple thing. And it's cost effective. You can control the cost. Your branding is all over it. And the idea that we got out of it, does anyone ever, like, subscribe to those like subscription boxes, whether it's Stitch Fix or FabFitFun, or, I mean, you guys all know what I'm talking about?
The clothing box stuff.
Yeah. So my listing manager would get those in, and it was like show and tell every month when she would get these boxes, because it's a surprise. There's something unique in there, something thoughtful and different. And that was where we really kind of thought was, how do we delight and surprise our customers in a way that keeps us top of mind and reminds them, if they already know, like, and trust us, how can we get repeat behavior? So far this year, so it was 163, 225. We're already at 224 this year.
Great, I love it. And what's great about that is, it's very in line with what we talked about this morning, which is the best way to get business from your database, instead of asking for business and expecting them to refer you, is to provide value.
In the absence of value, price is always the issue, right?
Yes.
And that's something I think you do such a great job when you work with your scripting and like what you guys teach, is that you are a real estate consultant and you guys provide so much value to the customer that there's no reason why they wouldn't want to trust you and refer you.
Yeah, so one of the things that I want to point out is tomorrow we're digging deep into that with you. We're doing a one-on-one interview with Seychelle on how do you guys specifically add value to your database, because you guys have mastered it. So
we're very passionate
We're
about
going to
that,
dig more into that tomorrow. So let's keep going down the line. Number one source of business, why, how did you arrive at it? Let's keep it going.
So farming. Farming is what I'm most passionate about in our marketing attempts, and there's a reason for it, which is that all the other business we do, even our past clients, move there, they move there, they move there, and that listing didn't help me get that listing. And when we're calling, just whether it's expireds or any of it, it's all over the place, unless you're concentrating those efforts in one unique area, which I guess would be a form of farming. And by the way, all that's important, and we do all those things that I just mentioned, but what we use those funds for, that we keep as reinvested, recommitted profits, is we invest it into our farm to grow it and to go deeper with it, because here's the magic of a farm. See, and we're very mail heavy. Okay, so we're doing a lot of direct mail.
How often?
We 2 times a month.
To how many? How big is the farm?
It is 16,000 houses right now. We actually just reduced it down from 32,000 houses.
Okay. Now let me ask you this question: are you doubling up on your efforts? Is that
because we're going a lot deeper with
Yeah.
our original zip code? We're doing
Love
more
that.
events for them. We're giving more value, and we just want to. We
Too many-
realized we expanded when we didn't need to. We could have tripled.
too many
down.
agents spread themselves way too thin by thinking they need to have this big farm and this big database that you can't get to them all. You're better off. I'd rather you send 4 mailers a month. I know 4 is extreme, but 4 as an example, 4 mailers a month to a farm of 100 versus 1 mailer a month to a farm of 400. You're going to get more on that 4 to 100.
You were touching on this earlier today, and to me, the size of your farm, if you choose to do it, it's the size that you can sustain and mail to at least twice a month, the first 8 weeks, every week, forever. That's the size of your farm. So if that means it's 100 homes, great. If that means it's 1,000 houses, good. There's no number it needs to be. But in any case, the reason I love it so much is that unlike all of our other business that spreads out, moves away, etc., see, when we're mailing, we're hitting them with messages, with marketing messages. And it's very direct language, it stands out, and I'll talk about that in a moment. So as that's happening, there's kitchen table conversations that are happening behind closed doors that nobody knows about. They haven't yet raised their hand and said, hey, marketplace, we're gonna sell our house. And so they're seeing this hit their home as they're having this private conversation. They then notice that there's a new listing across the street 3 doors over, and it happens to be yours. It happens to be the person that keeps mailing them. And so they say, oh, there, Dan just listed that house. And they keep getting the mail, they keep having the private conversation. Then you're having your big, say, grand opening, open house. We do 60 signs. When we literally do 60 signs, we pay someone $80 off Craigslist. We have like 4 or 5 of these guys. And we put the signs out
So you use
9
the
a.m.
you use the obnoxious marketing approach.
We go heavy. And so, and what's the value of that? I mean, it's huge value. So
Yeah.
anyway, they see the signs, they come to the open house, they meet you in person. You're now literally physically connected as you probably shook their hand. They continue to think about it, they go back home, they get a mailer, then your sold sign comes out. Dan just sold that house. And by the way, if you're not putting a pending or sold sign or whatever your market will allow the second it goes under contract, a lot of you are selling homes in like 7, 8, 9, 10 days. The neighbors, though, unfortunately think it's taking you 45 or 60.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So the sold or pending sign comes out, and they say, well, there, you just did that. And so long story short, you end up getting their listing, and so now there's a for sale sign on their house, and guess what? Over there's another couple that was going through the same experience just early in the cycle, so now this listing's going to help you get that one. And that's why farming is so powerful. It's a strategy that makes you shift-proof. There's a lot of part-timers right now, a lot of cousins and aunts and sister-in-laws that are getting listings right now.
Yep.
And they'll continue to, by the way, but they're going to fail when the market gets tougher. And as soon as they do fail, they're going to turn and say, all right, well then where's Dan? Where's the expert?
Yep.
And so you have the opportunity to build that. And for us, it's been direct mail with all the other supporting pieces.
I appreciate what you said about the sign thing, because I've actually heard agents say, well, I sold it in 48 hours. I don't need to pay the money to put a sign up. It's like, are you kidding me? Do you realize that by putting your rider up there and putting the number, what that's going to do for the neighborhood and the community?
And the other thing I hear a lot is, well, but if I put the sold sign up, I might not get a sign call from a buyer.
Mm-hmm.
You're at the listing conference, right?
Yep,
Yeah,
yep.
you might not, but you might get the neighbor's listing.
Correct. Yep. Love it.
I'm just going to leave with one thing because I know limited time. So if you are putting marketing messages out like that, which, right, I'm talking about spending money. If your marketing message, if your language is not, if you're not using strong copy, if you read your own marketing and just go, hey, that's nice and comfortable, sounds good, neighborhood expert, I'm the one that cares, best customer service, that's my favorite. That's the mail that the consumer doesn't notice, doesn't see, and tosses away in a heartbeat. The only way your marketing is going to be noticed is if it actually makes you uncomfortable. If you read what you're about to put on, and go, holy crap, am I going to do this? Am I sending this out? Like, this is scaring me. Now you have a shot at getting them when they're doing this. You get a shot at, whoa, what's that? Now they're paying attention. That's the only chance you have. If you're just a neighborhood-friendly agent, you're right in the trash.
Yep. Awesome. All right, Christy. Next up, let's hear it.
Yeah, mine's my website, indiehomes.com. For fun, we're 400 miles away from my home. If you got out your cell phone and just Googled something that might relate to real estate in Indianapolis, I'd like to test this theory so far away.
Yep.
But we're getting between 4,000 and 8,000 visitors to our website a day.
Yep.
That's generating between 7 and 18 leads a day just from the organic results of our website.
Mm-hmm.
It's really incredible. But the way that we're doing that is double downing on content. Your website is the long game. It takes a while, and it's all about content. But we write about things that people actually search. No one searches Indianapolis realtor. I mean, people don't do that.
Mm-hmm.
They Google things like, what are the Carmel neighborhoods that have a community pool?
Mm-hmm.
Right? What are the USA Gymnastics competitive teams in Carmel?
Yep.
And people make buying decisions based on what are the neighborhoods that have a boat dock on Geist. That's how you ask. You ask Google questions. The average Google search is over 10 words, and they're called long tail searches. You just talk to it like it's your friend. And so we write articles based on that. I find my ideas from what people ask me about, or there's these Facebook groups called like Indianapolis Moms. It's like 25,000 people, and they just ask their favorite mom friend every question in the world, from where do I get my dog groomed to what, I mean, you would be so surprised the questions that people ask. And so we double down on content about that. And then we always, whenever we do direct mail like you, Dan, is we drive people to our website with every piece that we do. So this says Carmel home values are at an all-time high. Are you curious about the price of your home? Find out in 60 seconds at indiecuriosity.com. So we drive people to our site with everything that we do, and then we have a great lead capture and about 8,000 pages of content that
So that's a perfect segue, because tomorrow morning we have Lori Ballin up here, and she is the expert at SEO and content and online digital marketing. So we'll be covering that in great detail tomorrow morning. Until then, let's hear it for our panelists. Thank you, guys. Nice job. Thank you very much. Exit stage left right here. Thank you again. Nice job, guys. Thank you. Yep, great job. Okay, real quick before we take a break, we will be doing that in a moment. Let me grab my notes. When we two things I need to make sure I mention to you. When we come back from break, assuming his plane landed on time, which I think it did, we're going to be doing a one-on-one interview with the #1 Keller Williams agent in the world. This particular gentleman and I have been friends now for probably the last 7 or 8 years, and there's probably not another agent in the Keller Williams organization that I look up to more than I do this gentleman. That's going to happen immediately after the break. After that, we are going into the lead generation masterminds. We created these masterminds specifically today, since kind of the theme of today was around where do we get listing leads. We put these masterminds together based on what we believe the audience needs to know and do to succeed with listing lead business at the highest level. So we went out and found people that were succeeding in these particular categories. The categories are agent-to-agent referrals, social media lead generation, phone and face-to-face prospecting, database and past client events, and of course marketing and mass advertising. So those, I'll give you the instructions on where those are taking place and so forth after the interview with Lance. On lunch, we had a few people that had stopped by the Glover U booth, because I know they put out some cool Live Unreal swag. They had said, where do I get these planners at? So if you haven't had a chance to, you can go to the booth. This is the 2020, we call it the Glover U Business Planner. It's not just like a regular real estate calendar. There's an actual business plan in here for you to follow on a monthly basis. There's daily numbers tracking at the bottom of each day. There's different quotes and things from people that are succeeding at a high level in the real estate business. So this planner was actually put together by the best agent. We went to JGA and said, okay, what are the things that you guys need in your business every single day? And then this year, we've improved it because now we've included our agents and our best clients to say, what do you want in this particular piece? So if you're interested in getting your hands on it, I know it's a little early in the year, but I figured I wanted to get it out because you should start business planning starting September, October. This thing's normally $50. If you buy it at the retreat, it's $40. It's outside at the Glover U booth if you're interested. So when we come back from break, it is me and Mr. Lance Loken on stage. So just make sure you are back here at 3:45. Go enjoy your break.